Hello everybody, this is Maniac 4 Bricks, and I just recorded the LEGO Pirate Roller Coaster review, just to give a brief overview of the set, building it, and what I think about it after finally putting it together. This has been one of my most anticipated sets of 2018, and I'm happy to finally have it, and build it, and play with it. But I want to add a little bit more onto it, to make it a little bit more fun in my beach town. I've already measured out the proper space for it, which is 2.5 base plates long, and a little bit outside of that, but it'll fit just nicely next to my railroad. The next thing I want to do before I put this into my beach town, Studside Heights, is I would like to make it motorized and have a working chain lift, kind of like the large roller coaster from this year in the Creator Expert series. There are a couple of changes I know offhand that I'm going to need to make to this. I've seen one or two videos already on YouTube in which they modified this to have a motor and a chain lift, but not many of them have actually gone through explaining the parts that they had to change, or the parts that they added on to this, so I will do that to the best of my ability throughout this video. I know offhand I'm going to need to change the pillar here, and probably get rid of it, or just change the shape of it, to allow the chain lift to go all the way through. Hopefully that doesn't affect the structure of this too much. I may have to change out the octopus here, and basically move it to the other side, or completely off of the model, as that might get in the way of the chain link on top. I currently have a few copies of the LEGO Ninjago movie set 30427, the Zane Ice Tank Polybag, as this set, currently in 2017 and 2018, is still available in Target, and this has a lot of the chain link pieces that are used for the large version of the roller coaster. So hopefully I can go through one or two of these poly bags and get enough that I need for this chain link action. I also know I'm going to need some battery power and a motor to make this thing run on its own. For right now, I'll be using the battery box that was included with most train sets, and a combination of either the M motor or the L motor. I know this one's a little bit more powerful than the M motor, and I think at default either of them will run with the right amount of torque. But I'm going to find that out throughout this video and let you know what my findings are. So here we have the completed motorized pirate roller coaster for now. I do still think that I can do updates to this in the near future, but for right now it does have a perpetual motion, and I've tested it on many loops, and most of the time it works without fail. There will be a few things here or there, like the coaster car coming off of the track, but it's a very minor issue that can easily be fixed. Nothing major as far as the mechanism. So before we get this thing started, I wanted to acknowledge some of the recent supporters on the channel that I wanted to put into the ride in some way. First, we have PJ Collects with his pirate that he sent me in Maniac 4 mail. I want to add in that little bit from the most wanted list that I'm happy that he helped me track down and find the whole set and the instructions. We have D. Teniglia Studios, well, rather the Chokin that he sent me in the mail when we did a Sig Fig trade. We have Brick Bakery in the front, and we have myself, Maniac for Bricks, in the center with the green 1x1 brick. I meant to put something in here for Brick Pasta and the Brick Rookie, and I apologize that I don't already have something ready to go. I will add you guys in some fashion later to acknowledge and appreciate the support you've given me for the channel. Now, let's get this thing running. I'll go through some of the changes that I made to this coaster compared to the original model, and there will be a parts list at the end for some of the major components to get this thing operational for your own collection. So at the default setting of the battery box and the M motor, this thing runs very well. This is actually a good speed for it to go up the hill and give it enough torque to push the car around the loop. It would have been a little bit of an issue if it was slower for it to, go off of that hill, and it would make it 3/4 of the way around the turn, but not go down to the second incline. So I'm happy with how this turned out. Let's take a closer look at what I've changed. The first thing to change to make the roller coaster run more smoothly had to do with changing the cars. As you notice, there is an open space where Brick Bakery is because there are some components on each car that were removed in order for it to move more smoothly around the half curve on the top. If it did have these items on there that made the shark shape, such as the head, top fin, and the dorsal fin, it actually got in the way of the skull on the top of the coaster, and it was just enough weight that it kept it from actually going around the whole curve. It would stop right by the pirate ship and wouldn't continue. So the first thing you would have to modify are these parts, which are very easy to take off and don't take away from the coaster itself as far as running. I don't know if this means you could fit 4 figures in here now, but I'll have to try that at another time. The second change was one I didn't expect to make, and one that kind of made sense to make. Some people, when they've modified this roller coaster to motorize it, actually take out the octopus and the skull on top of it, but they might keep the ring around it. But I was able to make this so that I could keep both of those on there, but had to change exactly where they were facing. For example, the octopus, or as I called it, the tryptopus, basically had to change a few plates in the center here to face it on the opposite side of the rail. This had to allow some room for the guide gear that would be on the other side so that the chain would stay in a good position. And the next thing, it might be a little hard to see, is this open stud or two here. Well, that's actually where the skull head connects to the archway on the top of the coaster. And basically, I shifted it up one stud while it's still attaching onto the coaster, can still swing back and forth, and it's a little bit out of the way of the passengers. So it still works as you see it go all the way around, but it's a little bit out of the way to keep the momentum flowing throughout the coaster. The next change was actually allowing room for the chain lift and making it properly motorized and situated. This is the part that I will give the parts list at the end of the video for the specific parts I added to this section. There are a handful of other parts that I moved around, but I'm not going to acknowledge those at the end of the video. They're just basically to put the whole track on the base plate, but I'll get to that in just a bit. For this part, I actually have a little demonstration to show you how each of these ends work. The guide gear that's on the top here is added in the same way that the motor gear is added at the bottom. And each of them are situated with Technic bricks on either side so that they are staying nice and sturdy and doesn't offer too much play with the track. There should be a little bit of flexibility, and I do have a count of how many of these pieces you need, but I'll get to that in just a bit. Basically, what you need is a Technic 5-length axle, like you see here. You need a 16-tooth gear in the middle, that is in Technic, and then you need these crown gears on either end. They are roughly 16 to 18 teeth, if I remember correctly, but these are all parts that you can obtain from the Ninjago Ice Tank Polybag I mentioned in the beginning, as well as getting these track pieces. So that is already a good handful of the technical parts you would need to modify the coaster. You basically slide each of these in with the tooth gears facing outward, so that way it offers enough room for the chain to go through, but also keep it nice and sturdy so it doesn't wiggle too much in either direction as this thing spins. And it works very well. I'm happy with how that turned out on both ends of this. And then for the next part, this is a way of stabilizing the coaster a little bit better. It's really sturdy as it is, don't get me wrong, but in order for me to add it in with other base plate items into my town, I thought I would actually situate it on top of a couple base plates. I mentioned in my LEGO Pirate Coaster review that this thing is 2.5 regular base plates big. And that is 32 by 32 being a regular base plate, or 10 inches by 10 inches. There is in between each of those base plates a 16 by 32 base plate to give it the proper length. Now, it does actually stretch out a little bit onto the side when you consider the loading dock over here. So, if you have 2 or more of these 8x16 plates, and mine personally is in gray here, you can add them next to each other to give just enough room for fitting it onto that platform. In order to fit the whole thing onto the base plate, I just added a whole bunch of regular 2 by any length plates underneath the entire structure. There were a couple of 6 by 8s or 4 by 6s that were added under this part since it's much larger and try to hold that together more. And basically, that helps with not only attaching it to the base plate really nice and easy, but also I don't have to worry about the diagonal portion on this back area. Around here, as you see in the instructions for the set, there's actually 2 or 3 hinges that make this diagonal support that goes on the back of that curve. So in order to get around that without attaching it to the base plate directly, I just added the plate layer under everywhere else. So this keeps it nice and sturdy. And I have noticed this when I was testing out the coaster without the base plate and just putting it on a wooden table. There were some parts of this that would lean a little bit back and forth. Not enough to break it, but just seeing how physics and all that fun stuff works when the coaster was going around. So I figured if I fixed it a little more to a base plate, it would make it a little more solid and keep the momentum flowing. Physics and whatever. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be adding this into my beach town in another video. And I haven't really tested this out with another battery box, but I could do that just to wrap up the video here. I do have the one that uses AA's instead of AAA's, which is normally from the Power Functions motor kit you would get at the Lego store for about $30. So I will add that one in since the M motor is included in the same pack. So as you can see, the battery box works either way, depending on which one you have. It pretty much does the same function and will give the right amount of power to the M motor. I haven't tested with an L motor yet because it's harder to attach that onto the studs the way that the M motor can, but I think this is just enough power for it to keep running perpetually for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with more LEGO videos, and look forward to when I add this into my beach town with a couple more updates along the way.